Hello everyone and welcome to No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com with your hosts Fenurian
and Volzel, and no Arasil, who with any luck will still be here eventually, but he got roped into some work training thing that he didn't want to go to, but he couldn't get out of. But he might be along sometime shortly. I think he said he would be done soon. So first of all, if you would like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us an email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord chat server by going to vtwproductions.com and clicking on the show logo on any of our recent show posts, which should take you directly to our Discord server where you can post any old garbage into the appropriate channel.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, so we'll do our best until Ari gets here.
Yeah.
To hold this car in the road, but yeah, it probably won't be as bad as when it's me and Ari doing it.
I should hope not. Anyway,
we have a unique capacity.
Yeah. So on the stream today, I'm playing a little bit of Besiege, which is an indie as hell game. Because look at this. I mean, it's a grey void and a little patch of grass with a house on it. The idea is to build a siege weapon and smash whatever it is over there. That's it. That's the whole game.
I see.
Yeah. It's a very simple game, but if you go and start poking around the Steam Workshop, you can appreciate just how ridiculous things can get. Like, there's people who've actually built fully functioning Gundams. Because why not? So yeah, I'm probably just going to be smashing things on the stream.
I see.
Like so. Smash. Ha.
It's a time-honored gaming tradition to, arbitrarily smash things for no reason.
It is basically just knocking over people's sandcastles in the game, using increasingly elaborate pieces of siege equipment.
Well, to be fair, their sandcastle's trying to knock yours over as well.
Yeah, they do. In this case, they kind of really don't. Alright, so I guess we can just jump straight into weeks. So what have we done this week? Nothing.
No, it's been one of those weeks. I mean, it's not like I've done nothing. I've had a bit more of a stable week myself, but I still didn't really get much done. That's just part of having to grow up, I think, is that you see your time starts to erode away, and what time you do have, you just sort of want to fade away from the world for a bit.
Yeah, this is adulting.
Don't like it.
Make it stop.
It's not worth it.
Anyway, so what did I actually accomplish this week? I watched a bit more Hunter x Hunter, and that anime, after maybe episode 35 or so, suddenly takes a rather dark turn.
Does it now?
It stops following the happy and ridiculously overpowered Gon and starts following the broody, revenge-focused Kurapika for a bit, with a silly name. He does have a very silly name. Oh boy. So yeah, you've got this band of serial killers with some rather strange and silly powers running around murdering everything, and this Kurapika wants to get his murder onto them in return to them murdering his family. There's a lot of murder going on, is what I'm saying.
So I've never consumed any Hunter x Hunter or Hunter Cross Hunter or whatever the actual pronunciation is supposed to be media. So I don't actually even know what the basic premise is.
The basic premise is the world is a group of people, I guess, called hunters who take on missions to do something that's not properly explained. It seems like they're just given a license to go carte blanche and do whatever the hell they want. Which includes murdering, because apparently being horrible and murdery does not get you kicked out of the Hunters organization.
So what level of organization are we talking here, though? Is it like is it like the guilds in Fairy Tale who are basically to call them an organization is to really do an insult to the word organize.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to tell because a lot of what the Hunter organization actually does is hidden in the shadows. They're probably the worst kept secret organization going. Because everyone knows they exist, they just don't really know what they do.
I see. So they're supposed to be a secret.
Yeah. But when they held their recruitment day at the start of the event, everybody just turns out there's about 450 people there.
So they're a secret organization the way Naruto characters are ninjas.
Yes, exactly.
I see.
So yeah, that's not properly explained. They get, as part of becoming a hunter, they learn how to use Nen, which is some sort of martial art chi type dealie. They sell it up as, which lasts all of.
You mean
Oh.
So it's like what every single shonen series has, basically.
Some sort of ridiculous power system. So it's all supposed to be about channeling energy and doing various things with your chi and whatnot. And that goes out the window maybe 5 minutes later, because then you have people turning up who are doing completely ridiculous things, which is only arbitrarily connected. So, yeah, it's a bit of a mess, admittedly. But it's a fun mess to watch until things get murdery. And you realise that God is horrendously overpowered. It's not a very good shonen, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, it's really popular, but I guess most of them are.
Yeah, it doesn't take much for a shonen to be popular. It's got a lot of problems and a lot of plot holes, I guess.
I see. But I mean, is it like appreciably worse in that sense than most? Because honestly, shonens having plot holes is nothing new.
I would say no. It's pretty par the course for shonen plot holes. So if I came into it just expecting shonen trash. That is what I got.
I see.
Which incidentally, you reminded me. I need to really go back and watch Fairy Tail to completion at some point.
Yeah, I read it to completion. I wasn't particularly amused. It just seemed.
Yeah, at this point,
it's like, oh well.
I need to go and finish it type deal.
Yeah, it more than finishing it came to an end. Like it felt rushed to me.
Yeah.
In fact, the thing that it felt the most like to me was probably Bleach's 1,000-Year Blood War arc, which was also a terrible shonen end arc, in that it ended by ending. They just brought everybody out for one big scrap, and then that was it.
Oh joy. So, yeah, we'll see. I'll get around to it eventually. Yeah, I've got
in the end, it's like it has to follow the classic tradition of shonen, which is basically you have to be able to accomplish everything with guts, sort of thing.
Shouting. Lots and lots of shouting.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a scenario where the final solution is not something clever or interesting, but to punch the opponent really, really hard. So yeah. I mean, that's why all the shonen protagonists, almost all shonen protagonists, are just meatheads.
Yeah.
Often noted for not being very clever.
Yeah. Well, what was Naruto's nickname? The Knucklehead Ninja.
Yeah. Well, there are lots of nicknames for him, and none of them were complimentary.
Sorry. No.
So yeah, but I don't know. I can't think offhand of many shonen protags that weren't like stupid meatheads. Like, Ichigo from Bleach was supposed to be a relatively intelligent individual, but he still acts like a bonehead all the time.
Yep.
And he's got the emotional depth of a teaspoon or something. Like, it's just not a very interesting character, all told. he spends more of his time angsting rather than being stupid, I guess.
And getting horrendously overpowered for no good reason.
Yeah, but I mean that's not unusual for shonens either. But,
no, that's pretty pretty standard.
Like Natsu's a retard, Luffy's a retard, Goku's a retard, the main dude in Yu Yu Hakusho's a retard.
Yeah.
Like, who else have we got? I guess Deku's not a retard.
No, he's a dork.
Maybe that's part of the reason, I guess, why that series has so much more legs than the other ones do. Because there's something a little bit novel as well as it being formulaic.
Mm-hmm.
And that you don't. I guess you can. It's hard to relate to a character who is constantly derided as being a retard because you don't want to relate to them.
Yep.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other shonens which have non-meathead protagonists offhand.
I can't think of any right now. Well, it'll probably come to mind later. So yeah, I'm not really watching it out of any obligation or anything like that. It's just kind of pick it up and just I felt like watching a shonen, a generic shonen.
Yeah, you seem to periodically do that.
Yeah. Oh dear.
And you very rarely discover anything which surprises you.
Yeah. I seem to have made a terrible, terrible mistake here. I built a siege weapon that just takes itself apart.
It's Hunter x Hunter seems to be one that you periodically will run into somebody who just defends it as like, oh, this is clearly the best shonen, and it's not fair that it doesn't get the attention that One Piece or whatever does.
But
so there are clearly people that think it's awesome.
Yeah, I don't honestly think it deserves that high praise. It's bog standard shonen. It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect more than that.
Really special, but yeah. What else did I do this week? Oh yes, the final expansion for Ark released. So I kind of had a bit of a poke around at that and got eaten by various dinosaurs again. I went
to look at the Steam front page, and like 3 of the how there's the top thing is like it's a auto scrolling sort of highlights thing, right? The top thing on the Steam store page.
Yeah, it claims to say these are the things that we might be interested in. You've already owned these things, or
like 4 of them, 3 of them were Ark. Like there's only like 8 or 10 on the list.
Yep.
As it automatically scrolls through, and like 3 of them were Ark. Like seriously, I don't own Ark. I don't own games like Ark, so why is it trying to shill this to me so damn hard?
They held a free weekend to promote it.
I see.
Oh dear. Right. This isn't going well at all. There we are. So, yeah, the new expansion is you're back on Earth, which has apparently been locked into a static orbit now. Somehow. That's not explained. At least I haven't found the explanation for it yet.
You mean it's been locked into a static orbit? You mean it just sits in space and doesn't do anything?
What's the actual correct term? Geosynchronous.
Oh, okay. Geosynchronous with what?
With the sun.
So it always faces the same side of the sun, and like the Earth doesn't rotate relative to the sun, so one side is always hot and one side is always cold.
Yeah.
So you've got an equatorial belt that's habitable and the rest of it is not.
Well, in this case, the equatorial belt seems to be a city, and that's it. Although the map isn't all that huge, so they don't have a whole lot of place to work with. It's set somewhere on that equatorial zone, so the north side of the map is hot and burny and deserty. The south side of the map is cold and kind of a frigid wasteland type deal, and you're going to have this strip of city. It's only about a few kilometers wide, if that. There are a lot of interesting creatures running around, particularly at some point in the past, humans discovered how to make cyborgs. Because of course this is a good idea when they're already making dinosaurs. They augment them with cybernetics. Because this is a totally good idea that will not go horribly wrong.
Well, it's a cool idea.
It's totally a cool idea.
But this is one of those, they were so interested in whether they could that they didn't ask if they should things, isn't it?
Yes, it is. There's also what appears to be, I'm not sure if it's an alien AI or something, I don't know, which is apparently giving them all this technology. There's so many unanswered questions about this game. Like, the plot is in there somewhere, but most people don't even bother with it.
So there is a story?
Yes.
Like, there's an active story that you can interact with?
There is a story in there somewhere, yes.
It's not just, like, background for the world?
Yeah, it's probably more background, honestly. So, the new creatures are a bit of a mixed bag. Like, they've got some really wonky bits in the AI. Like, sometimes they're passive to you, but other times they just randomly and completely arbitrarily decide that you must die for no apparent reason. So you could be walking along and walking alongside this robot panther thing, and it'll be perfectly cool with you. Until all of a sudden it is just not. And you die.
I see.
Yeah. It's Ark. What can I say? The game actively despises its players.
I see.
Yeah. So
I guess whatever works for you, man.
I guess. Like, I wouldn't have really worried about it, but back when the first expansion, Scorched Earth, first launched, they also launched their Season Pass. And they did so on a sale weekend. What actually ended up happening is Scorched Earth went live for $20. The Season Pass went live for $15. They are not very good at this math type deal. So yeah, you can buy...
I want season passes to go away forever.
Oh, please do.
Like, I don't want to live in a world where season passes and loot boxes exist at the same time.
No.
Like, because that's too much corporate cynicism for one world.
Mm-hmm. And yet, what do we have?
I'm disgusted.
You should be.
And I hate them. I hate them. I really, really, really hate them.
Yeah.
It's just, there's no good aspect to it. They're strictly an anti-consumer practice.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, when you buy a season pass, you're not actually getting it.
No.
Not really. You're just giving them some money against the hope that you'll get some content. Like, I don't know if there was a season pass for Final Fantasy, the
15?
new Final Fantasy. I bet there was.
I think there was.
But I mean, like, where is that now? Foreshadowing.
What else? I didn't really get to play much Red Dead Redemption this weekend, unfortunately. These things happen.
As far as I can tell, Red Dead Redemption consists primarily of posting clips of you falling off your horse on Twitter in amusing fashion.
Yeah. I found a few instances where that's happened, and I've just laughed my ass off for no good reason.
Like, I keep seeing these clips on Twitter of people just catapulting off their horse and floating dramatically through the air and colliding with a tree or whatever.
Yes. I've had that happen once. I've also had it where he's gotten off the horse and just ragdolled halfway through it, so he kind of cartwheeled around and landed square on his face. I don't mind silly bugs like that.
I've also seen what looked like a double fall off the horse, where I guess maybe there was somebody riding behind the main character. I don't know if that's something that ever happens, and there were just two people flying through the air dramatically.
Oh yeah, that happens.
But yeah.
The two people on one horse happens a fair bit. Right.
Well, at any rate, it was a picture of like two people just sort of catapulting through the air because the horse had stopped suddenly. Like, these horses, they have a very tangential relationship with physics, I have to say.
Oh yeah. Things get a little bit silly. What else? That's really honestly about it for my week. I didn't get a whole lot of opportunity to do much.
I was hoping you had more than that because I don't really have much to talk about either.
Yeah, it's just been a dead week. Well, dead week being I've got nothing to talk about. Boy. I'm trying to think of something else, but there really isn't anything. Like, Ark is Ark. It's going to dick you over because that game actively hates everybody. Red Dead is buggy but still fun, and Shonens are shonen-y.
Yeah, there's basically everybody on social media is talking about Red Dead. The world has gone Red Dead mad. I have no way of determining just how good the game is relative to any other game or relative to its predecessor or anything like that because people appear to be bonkers for it. Yeah. And it looks like a pretty good game from what I've seen of it. It looks like they've accomplished what they set out to do, but still, I don't really have any strong intention of playing it myself because I'm just not really into that type of game. But yeah, it does seem like an impressive production. I've seen a lot of pretty cool looking set pieces of various sorts and so on and so forth. So yeah, it's just not enough to lure me into the genre though. Like, and by genre I both mean the Western, which I'm not particularly a fan of, and also the sort of open world sandbox style game. Like I think it's overrated by most people relative to the concept of telling a good linear story.
Yeah, I have to admit that is a bit of an issue I found with the game. Is you tend to get caught up in the faffing around. So you do.
Yeah, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in terms of look, there's all this content that you can faff around with, but yeah, it's even though there's a lot of content to faff around with, like I want there to be a coherent plot line.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Though there is a lot of news about YouTube deciding to close down the channels of people who stream violence against women in the game.
Yeah, so a lot of people have decided to take out their frustrations on the suffragettes in the game, who are feminists back when feminism wasn't a gross parody of itself.
Oh, you say that, but the suffragettes were terrorists.
Well, yeah, they were.
Like they bombed the place.
They did.
Like it was men that gave women the vote, not suffragettes. Suffragettes set women's chances of getting the vote back years.
Yeah, it's good to see something.
So why you would want to emulate them, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, some things have just not changed as time has gone on, I guess. So yeah, people will take out their frustrations on them because why not? I guess it's a sandbox game. That's the sort of thing you can do in a sandbox game.
Yeah.
And
but not if you want to keep your YouTube streaming rights. You can't.
No, if you're doing it on YouTube, you get banned.
Galaxy spanning mass genocide. Okay, punching a woman in the bar in the face, that gets you banned.
Yeah. Just it wasn't something I was going to bring up because it's just terrible and stupid.
It annoys me because it's another one of those things that shows that people not only don't understand games but don't care to understand games.
Mm-hmm.
Like they see an opportunity to virtue signal and they just do it.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. They can't help themselves. They can't resist. Because I mean, there's nobody losing their streaming rights for butchering millions in some like 4X game where they decide to go to war against another civilization and scorch planets full of billions.
Which I was doing last week.
Like that seems to be an atrocity on a different level to slugging a woman in a bar. Sure, that's not chivalrous, but it's not the same as genocide.
No. Yeah, they're going a little bit crazy with it. Like they'll actively tie up a a suffragette and take her out into the wilderness and feed her to coyotes.
Well, even if you say that, I have seen people complain about getting banned, and the footage that they got banned for is just them happening to punch a woman. But I mean, doing cruel things to NPCs is also a proud game of tradition.
Especially anything by Rockstar.
Well, I mean, if you could not do cruel things to NPCs, why would the Saints Row franchise exist?
Exactly.
Because that game is all about creative cruelty. Like, there's no two ways about it.
Complete glorious nonsense.
Yeah. I like the Saints Row series to me is encapsulated within that sequence where you rescue that pimp dude or whatever he was, the guy who talks through the microphone so his voice is audio tuned.
Yeah,
that guy. Like that sequence where you save his life, I guess.
Yeah.
From you know, he's like he's got a horse's tail sticking out of his butt, and he's pulling a cart down the street.
Yeah.
Like that Saints Row in a nutshell. Like this is what it means to play a sandbox game. Is that this sort of ridiculous stuff is the norm?
Yeah. If it's not silly, they did not want to know. I miss Saints Row, but I'm glad it ended where it did. It hit a good ending point, I think.
I haven't played the fourth one.
It is completely bonkers.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't like sandbox games very much, but I make an exception for Saints Row because I feel like it's somehow friendlier than the other one. Because there is nothing you can do that is too absurd.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the end, like if you play Grand Theft Auto in a chaotic way, the game, by its nature, tries to ham you back into line. It punishes you pretty grievously, in fact, if you take things too far, because fighting the army off is difficult.
Yes.
Like, really difficult.
really, really difficult. But fun.
In the case of Saints Row, it's sort of expected that you're going to end up with the army after you.
Yeah.
There's no shortage of ways to bail yourself out.
It's when they show up with the superpowered shock troops that you really got to worry. Such a silly, silly series. Anyway, I'm going to throw my week over to you because, yeah, we're just blathering at this point.
I don't have much to talk about. I was trying to delay have to talk about my week. But yeah, so I had a relatively quiet week where I didn't have too many late nights, so I actually did get to play some video games. But mostly I just played during the week at any rate. I mostly just played Dynasty Warriors. No, not Dynasty Warriors. Warriors Orochi, which is like Dynasty Warriors on. But considering Dynasty Warriors where you're starting from, that's quite the proposition.
Yeah, it's a bit silly.
But yeah, like for instance, as we speak, I just used a magical boar to freeze an army. Yeah. And it charged through them and smashed them all. Like, where do you go from there?
I don't know.
How do you even respond to that? Yeah. Like, it's just... There's this magic pig, and it charges about. And there's no explanation needed. This is just how the world is. Sometimes there are giant golden pigs.
You just have to deal with this.
It's one of those things that happens, you know. You see it every day, giant golden pig.
Yeah.
Like, what's unusual about that? No, but the game is silly. I haven't played very far through it still, even though I did have some time to play, because, you know, it's Dynasty Warriors. You tend to get caught up in just killing things because you can, rather than, you know, trying to advance the story with any sort of alacrity. I don't know anybody who does that, actually.
Yeah, I don't either.
Like, the story is usually absurd to begin with, and frankly, I have no idea what's going on, and seeing all of these people, like, Dynasty Warriors characters are weird, man.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, there's this girl who fights with a lacrosse stick. Like, she's some sort of ancient Japanese warrior who fights with a lacrosse stick. Pretty sure that they didn't have lacrosse in Warring States, Japan. I could be wrong. There's a lot I don't know about Japanese history, but I don't think lacrosse featured prominently. It looks like a lacrosse stick anyway.
Yeah, it's a lacrosse stick. It totally is.
I'm pretty sure it's meant to. But yeah. And there's also like Akechi Mitsuhide's daughter, and this is named Gracia. I don't know if that's her name historically, but that sounds weird. And she seems to be some... Number one, she uses Chinese martial arts despite being Japanese, or it still looks like it. Plus, she can use magic or strategy or whatever we're calling it these days, by punching things. And yeah, let's just say there are a lot of things that lack explanation. And there's nothing unusual about that for the series. The mashing together of so many different mechanics concepts is sort of janky. Like, I can't bring myself to like the Samurai Warriors way of doing things like that. It's a case where, I have happened to encounter a enemy officer. I guess I've just lost half of my moveset because you can't use your rushed moves where there's an officer around, because the officer's hitbox is enormous and will get away.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, you just immediately get stopped and then stabbed in the back. Anytime that happens, anytime you run into one of these guys, like, there's totally jerks about it. I don't even know why.
Yep.
Like, can't you just let me use my cool move?
No.
What did I do to you?
No cool move for you.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't particularly like using those characters, comparatively speaking, and there are a lot of them that I think I would really like if they'd been designed under the Dynasty Warriors system instead. But yeah, so I mainly play the Dynasty Warriors characters for the most part. I will bring in the Samurai Warriors ones at times when I know that they've got abilities that are effective for dealing with a particular situation.
Mm-hmm.
And there is sort of an interesting amount of tactical flexibility that you can put together using the different movesets that are available, the different magical artifacts that are available, and so on and so forth. The problem is the cast is so freaking enormous that while, yes, it's technically true that you've got a lot of tactical headroom to work with, the fact is you can't remember what characters do what. You could be joking.
It's just way too much to remember.
At best, you could remember maybe half a dozen that you like and use them.
Mm-hmm.
But there are like 170 characters in this game. There is absolutely no way you're going to learn 170 characters inside out.
Yeah.
So in the end, you're going to stick to your favorites and use them probably. I presume that what the story is doing by giving bonus EXP to particular characters, I presume what they're attempting to do is basically give you an opportunity to try out lots of different characters or something. But honestly, it just puts a certain amount of pressure on you that I don't really like. Because it's like, well, if you're not using these characters, you're just passing up a huge amount of EXP, and it is a huge amount of EXP. Like, it's like 300% is what it feels like, something like that, as far as EXP bonuses go. But yeah, the characters are ridiculous, the storylines are ridiculous, because the battles aren't constrained by history, they are also ridiculous. Every part of this is completely ridiculous. Like, I very much enjoyed the fight where you basically break up Nobunaga's forces using this absurdly elaborate strategy. Well, it's not even elaborate, it's quite simple in a sense. The issue is not so much about its complexity as the fact that it really shouldn't work. But it does, and it was always going to, because everybody in Dynasty Warriors is a loon.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm having great fun with that. I kind of wish it was a normal game. No, what do I mean by that? I mean, I kind of wish that they had built a cohesive mechanical system and iterated on it, rather than, I feel kind of like the magic system is just tacked on.
Yeah.
And that's in addition to the fact that I feel like the smushing together of the Samurai Warriors control scheme and the Dynasty Warriors control scheme, like just having them there parallel to each other, is kind of weird. I feel like the Dynasty Warriors one is dominant for the Musou genre, and they should have conformed to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that Samurai Warriors probably has die-hard fans that wouldn't want to capitulate to that. So I sort of understand why they would want to keep them separate as well, but I not really a fan.
Yeah.
I just feel like game is overall mechanically janky, and it would have been nice if it had conformed to something consistent, but it doesn't, and I can live with that because the game is fun. So, yeah, and that's all you can really ask ultimately.
Fun
is
at
that
the end of the day is all that matters.
Yeah. So, what else? I, as always, played a pile of what's it called? Fate Grand Order.
Yes.
The end of the Halloween event for North American server 2018 came through, and boy, did I ever try hard to get that freaking craft essence, but it just did not happen for me. It was not my
actively avoiding you, I think, at the end there.
Yeah, I went through a lot of AP bars. A lot of AP bars, farming it up. I've got like 135 night medals or something like that. Like, I farmed hard, didn't happen for me. At some point, I just had to hang it up because I was going to get too burned out if I did another night of burning 3 apples, trying to get the darn thing. And it has been it's been a big disappointment for me because it's a very good craft essence that would have been particularly good on some of my characters, particularly some of my favorite heavy hitters that I use a lot, like Kirihime Lancer and Ilias Veil. But yeah, I just have to deal with it. I didn't get it. I'll use something else. I'll tough it out. So we're now in the lull period following the close of the Halloween season. And I'm not interested in the current banner because it's just Knights from Camelot. And the only one of those that I am interested in tactically is Lancelot, and he doesn't have a solo rate up, so I don't care. I don't think he does anyway. But yeah, and I don't really want him badly anyway, even though I need a strong saber. What I really need for my team is a saber who is strong on raw stats. Because I have other types of sabers already. Like, I've got Rama, who's like the anti-demon monster, and I have Nero, who's like an indestructible sort of like linchpin. Like, Nero's just really good for splashing damage across the board. Like, she can't really put somebody down to the same extent that single target servants can, but she splashes around a lot of damage. Like, since I got her to Noble Phantasm 2, she's very effective combat to just spread damage around. And she's very, very hard to put down because Thrice Setting Sun gives her 3 stacks of guts. So yeah, she's effective, but what I really need is someone I can just send in to kill things. It's like, this is a Lancer, it is a problem, and I want it to die. Like, I don't have somebody for that role because, my 2 single targets are Rama, who's sort of like, he feels a bit middle of the road to me. You really need Merlin to make him good. And you need Merlin and a Star Engine, really, to make him good, because he's very good as a Buster Crit funnel, but not really great at anything else, other than killing demons specifically. But yeah, and I've got Brave Liz, but Brave Liz is basically a servant with 2 skills.
Yeah.
Because the third skill is conceptually great, I think. Like, it's a good idea. They just tested it out in the wrong place. That's what I think of. They tested it out in the wrong place. They should have really put a lot of work into developing the idea and then attaching it to another servant. At the 5-star level, where it wouldn't be, it wouldn't make someone weak disproportionately powerful compared to 5 stars, and just it would be hard to pitch the power of it right, such that it didn't just mean, oh, well, there's this one servant that you have to have because it's got 2 Noble Phantasms where everyone else has 1. You don't want that situation. You're just going to end up creating a waiver.
You don't want to spin the roulette wheel?
Nah. I think that you could probably even do the roulette wheel in there. Like, let's say Ellie-chan had 2 to 3 sets of those skills that were available. So if you decided to spin the wheel, you would always get something good. because you got, say, a pair of those buffs and they were sorted into sets where there was always a good one. Like, I think in that scenario, you could get a lot more mileage out of that ability because you wouldn't feel like you'd lost if you got something that you just didn't want, because you're always going to get something that you want. I think that would be the only way that you can make it work for Ali-chan. And she's weak enough that wouldn't overpower her. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. They're not going to do that. I don't think they've ever done that sort of thing before. But they could do a strengthening quest. I just don't think that I've ever seen it before on something like that. But yeah. So yeah, I didn't get my way at all. That chapter is now closed. We're heading through the lull period. I spent some time progressing Camelot. I'm very close to the end now. I think that all that's left between me is some unbelievably monstrous trash mobs, Gawain, and the final boss.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm nearly there. And then I'll be caught up on the story. Hopefully before Babylonia hits. Yeah, and I guess the next event that's going to come down the pike is going to be Christmas rerun.
Saber, Alta Santa, I don't know. What are we up to now?
That's this year's one. We're going to do last year's one first. So that will be,
which is
that'll
Santa
be
Lily?
The rider.
Oh, right.
It's Saber Alter Santa, not Saber, but
you say she's not Saber, she's a rider. So yeah. Because you can't be a Santa and not be a rider. I mean, come on.
The events are incredibly silly, needless to say.
You know, unless you're a Lancer. Like,
her name is double confused in our region and semi-confused in Japan. So I'm just going to call her OG Saber, so her name stays Saber. Also, I snuck in like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, I know.
How's it going, everyone? I'm back.
I can see you on the chat log. But, yeah. So, I'm looking forward to that and also dreading it. Because it is, as always, Christmas is the lottery event of the year.
Mm-hmm.
This is what you save your apples for, folks. Unless you're a lunatic like me who wants to, pee into the wind to try and get a crafty. You save your gold apples for Christmas lottery, because this is your big chance to get all of those skill gems that you're constantly starved of trying to upgrade 7th skill. So, yeah.
Yeah.
You run the lottery. I've heard of people opening like 130, 150, 170 boxes. But I don't understand how much time you have to spend playing in order to open that many boxes. But yeah, boxes. I guess once you do that, you don't have to do it again because you've got enough skill gems to last you for the rest of Fate's history. But yeah. What else? Did I do anything interesting this week? I didn't play much more of Berseria yet this week. I'll probably play some tonight or tomorrow or something like that. See where the story goes. Basically, I exited a set of ruins and there's a paddock and I have to find somebody. Like, it very much feels like I just ended a chapter and I'm starting a new one. So, yeah. What else? Did I do anything else? I did some reading over the past couple of weeks. I read my pile of books that haven't been filed yet. I periodically will buy a bunch. When I say a bunch, I mean like half a dozen light novels that have come out recently in the series that I follow.
Mm-hmm.
And so I caught up with Konosuba, Volume 6. And it was quite an interesting outing, but it was sort of a bit of a ridiculous nothing adventure in that they didn't really make much progress. They did set some stuff up though, mainly for the next volume, but yeah, it was. But the gist of it is basically that by hook or by crook, the main party in that story have managed to bring down some pretty heavy hitters, like all the ones that you've seen in the animation. Plus another one in the book, the previous book that they haven't animated yet. The Demon Lord's armies are getting pretty beat up, actually, because of Kazuma's ridiculous ability to basically find the most retarded route through a fight and somehow make it work. So yeah, the since Darkness is nobility and isn't in with the royals, they decide that they need to meet these people and so on. And since Kazuma likes to spin a yarn about how great he is, and he does in fact spin a yarn about how great he is at length to the princess, who's like a 12-year-old girl or something. She's quite taken with him, and then basically drags him back to the castle to be her personal playmate.
I
and
see.
Kazuma's basically thrilled by this because now he has a little sister character, and which, for some reason, given the series, like I expected, oh, you've got to be joking. We're not going down this road, are we? No, he just actually wants a little sister to be the little sister character. He doesn't have any romantic designs on her at all.
That's a first.
Though that'll probably change. That'll probably change as she gets older because she, is going to be gorgeous. And so basically he ends up at the castle, but it becomes abundantly clear that he's a worthless lech. So basically there's somebody who's basically robbing nobleman house, and he decides that he's going to try and catch this phantom thief and gets embroiled in a ridiculous situation as a result, at any rate. So yeah, that's the gist of the story. Is this is him trying to find a way to live the high life in the capital and find an excuse to live in the castle where nobody wants him around, actually. But yeah, and so it basically talks about there are one of the major threats that the story sets up is that because there have been lots of people who have gone through Kazuma's particular deal where they get a super magic weapon and they are sent to this world to fight the Demon King. There are various people, of course, who have been unsuccessful, and those items have gone astray. And even though only the person who is given the item can use it conventionally, as we've seen already, when Kazuma beats Mitsurugi by stealing his sword, it turns out that the weapons actually do work if you're willing to pay the activation cost, sort of thing. Like basically, all of the items are, if you think of it like an RPG, they're items from the DM's handbook, the real DM's handbook for the world, except that all of the activation costs have been filed off. So if you're level 1, you can use it, and if you need to pay like a quart of your blood to use it, you don't need to do that sort of thing. So somebody who gets a hold of one of these things and knows how to use it can use it at least in a diminished capacity.
Right.
So yeah, these things are floating around and they are hazardous. But
Kazuma typically broke it by asking for Aqua.
Yeah. Well, Aqua continues to be a useless goddess.
Yeah.
Like she will occasionally have one of these moments where she does something incredibly useful and then goes back to being a useless goddess. But it's just par for the course for her.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that. It was pretty much in the main. It wasn't the most exciting one of them. Like I think there are a couple of the previous ones that have been better, but it sets up the next book, which is basically it sounds like Darkness has found another way to engage to somebody without planning on it, and it's trying to fish it out, fish a way out of it, but without having to get roped into some political marriage. Sounds like the main prince who's going to inherit the throne is coming back and decided that Darkness would make a good bride because she is in the right social class for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it was not as good as the previous book, but still pretty good. But yeah, it's sort of I can't tell if they're planning to like make any progress in any of the romantic plot lines set up within the party, because it's not the sort of series where you really expect them to, but it's sort of that seems to be pitched hard against what Kazuma wants, because he's always looking for an opportunity to try and find the protagonist's girlfriend, basically, because he still thinks of everything like a game, and it's really not working for him very well.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what else did I read? I read the next 2 volumes of the Irregular Magic High School, which continues to be a stream of gobbledygook as far as trying to explain the world concepts go. But it's converging on coherent metaphysics circa 500 BC. So I'm able to understand more and more of it now.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very much actually, once you strip away all of the sort of magic and future stuff, the technological jargon that everything has been couched in, it's basically, you know, a combination of modern digital physics theory and Platonic philosophy. So yeah, it's getting a little bit more coherent. But yeah, as far as the stories go, I read 2 volumes. One of them was a reminiscence arc, which basically tells the story of how Miyuki went from being completely cold and ignoring her brother to idolizing him, basically, and devoting her entire life to him. Yeah. Which is, you know, basically out of staggering guilt. Once she found out what was actually done to him in order to make him into her guardian.
Creepy. And
how her brother got drafted into the army, so to speak, why he's a special officer in the military, and how he developed the spell that ended up getting him in. The book following that one is a part 1 of 3, and I'm incredibly furious about it. And it's sort of like it's not a deconstruction of, you know, magical university stuff, since what's happening with magical school stuff, since what's happening is not totally out of the main, but it is basically an exploration of like what actually happens on the world stage when you have a shonen protagonist who's real powerful. And basically it ends up being that the governments around the world panicking, pretty much, because at the end of the animated part of the story, which is the 7th or 8th book, they basically destroy the invading fleet from the Great Asian Alliance using a strategic magic designed by the main character, whose name suddenly escapes me because it's very plain. I can't find it. Where's the book? Tatsuya. Tatsuya uses the strategic magic to basically wipe out the naval fleet of the Great Asian Alliance that had been parked, I think, off the coast of Korea, pointed at Japan during the Halloween invasion, and it gets burned to the ground. But there's supposed to be only, I think, 13 individuals in the world who are capable of using magic on a scale like that. And there are 13 known ones. And because this is like having a nuclear weapon, it's everybody's business when another one shows up that does something undocumented. Mm-hmm. So they know that once the governments of the world figure out that a nuclear weapon wasn't used, because basically nukes became the super hyper ultra no in this world during the sort of the Third World War that happened in the backstory, and that basically all of the nations abandoned their national ties to wipe out anybody who used a nuclear weapon because it left everything uninhabitable. But having an additional one of these strategic level spells show up is a big deal. So basically, the plot of the new arc revolves around the United States figuring there has to be a new strategic magic user that's emerged in Japan, but we have no idea who it is. We've got this list of suspects, and list of suspects includes, you know, Tatsuya and his sister, because they're part of the aristocracy, I suppose, of the magic using world. So basically, they send in infiltrators of various sorts, including their only strategic magician who was young enough to pass as a high school student to infiltrate their school. But the thing is that she's also She's a strategic magician. She doesn't know anything about infiltration. She's really bad at it. She's well trained, so she tries her very best and does a passable job, but ultimately, considering they're up against a pair of super geniuses, it doesn't really wash. So, yeah, basically, there's a whole bunch of weird stuff going down. There's like a vampire urban legend has emerged, which seems to be based on someone going around taking blood samples of magicians to try and accomplish something. It seems like they're trying to like work out which genetic keys make people into capable of becoming vampires, I guess is what they're calling them, but they're not actually vampires. But then again, they are sort of vampires, because then they go into a bit of an explanation about, oh, well, there are these types of... This is what mythical creatures were and have been discovered to be since then, although nobody really believes in them anymore, sort of thing. So they're tying together a whole bunch of other stuff, and it, like most light novels, is very, very heavy on the world building. I'm okay with that. I don't think most people would be, because it is incredibly dense. So, yeah. I've also picked up the next few novels in a certain magical index, but I'm still behind the TV series, so there's not really much to talk about there.
All right.
But as far as the anime goes, the storyline of the past arc has been really crappy, but there was a really cool fight scene in the latest episode, so I'll let it off.
Right. Anything else?
I don't know that I have anything else to talk about. I think I've more or less hit my limit, and Ari's here now, so...
Yeah.
Assuming y'all started on time, we're right at an hour, so we should probably take a break, like we're actually supposed to.
That's actually doing something we're supposed to.
It seems so passé.
I know, right?
I need to actually go collect water and stuff, because I literally sat down and got home as soon as I got home and got here. Okay. So I've not got water or done anything since I walked in the door. So we'll be right back, folks. And we're back.
Yes,
So,
indeed.
I don't know what y'all did while I wasn't here, so y'all got anything left?
Honestly, not much. It's been a pretty bad week.
Agreed.
Yeah, I haven't done very much.
Yeah.
Nor have I, unfortunately. It's been one of those weeks that's just been work, and a whole lot more work. I've had time to sit down with Abo on a couple nights and play some games. And actually, I'm hoping some things he recommended I could do to kick the server will make it so that it won't be as choppy as it has been, where it just decides it doesn't like me.
I see.
So,
Is that why I've been on red or yellow all the time?
I moved it for closer to y'all and just changed the server to a
Well, the
different
connection
one.
has gotten much worse over the past couple of days.
I'll kick it again. But yeah, he's like, yeah, just change it off the West Coast server to any other one, and then push it back onto the West Coast server. So it's just another West Coast server. It's just not the one we were on.
Well, this one is mad at me because I've never had red and yellow connections before, and now I have them.
I'll kick it again after the show if it gets particularly bad. I'll kick it during it. But yeah, so we're seeing if that helps. Yeah. And I guess I'll just keep kicking it until we get one where everybody can stay connected to it. But yeah, so this week, I don't even remember Monday. There was something that resembled work. Me having to do some driving. I got home and occasionally throughout the day would burn AP and idols in FGO. And that's it. Tuesday was 12 hours of straight work. And Wednesday was more work. And more idols in FGO. And the next day was more work and the occasional idols in FGO. Can't remember if it was Friday or Thursday. This whole week is just a blob.
You know,
it's just one.
Kind of hoping you'd have something to talk about, but you don't.
Not at all. I got no new media for you guys other than the last Encore anime. I finished that. We can talk about that if you want, but I don't have any reactions to it really. I really didn't like it, but it's not a dislike where I'm angry at it. It was just kind of bad. It was nothing like that makes it a super train wreck. It's because it's trying to do something, and I guess it does that, but it just wasn't very good. Like,
well, I think that the problem is that, how do I say, there's no ontological weight in the extraverse.
Yeah, and it doesn't.
Nothing has ontological weight because nothing is real in a very weird sense. Like, because everything is taking place in this sort of bizarre fantasy world, and it's like you're basically, you're playing a game to decide the fate of the world. Like, the only thing that really happens that matters is that Ren gets out.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing that ultimately matters. Like, the Extella branch, you can add a bit of ontological weight there because you learn about what is happening on the moon cell with Velba and how that will impact the real world. Whereas in the extraverse as presented in Last Encore, it's basically just a side story. Like, this is what happens when the Moon Cell Grail War breaks down and goes along this route instead. So it's much like in the other entries in the extra branch of the canon. Basically, it's ultimately only going to determine one thing, and that's, what person gets out alive at the end.
Yeah, it's while you're watching it, it's like the closest thing, because I don't have Fate Extra as a point to compare it to. I've done a wiki read through of it because there's a lot of characters from Fate Extra, and there's either an event or something, or a singularity maybe, from Fate Extra in Fate Grand Order that'll be coming up sometime at some point. And so I did a full wiki read through and figured out what everything was, but I don't have any real emotional connection to it because it's just a wiki page.
The thing is that the wiki page really doesn't do Extra justice, because leaving aside the fact that Extra's awful as a game, like in terms of like mechanically presenting itself, it's not very good. However, it's a lot about the atmosphere and the sort of like vaguely despairing uncertainty that everything has. Like it's not a very friendly game in a certain sense. Like you feel like, appropriately enough, like you're basically not in control. Because the Mooncell Grail War is just sort of happening around you. You're in a sense completely unprepared and disarmed, and don't really have a good way of influencing things as much as you need to in order to really control events. And so everything, the whole story feels very dark, even when there's levity, because it's a bad situation for everybody involved. Everyone involved is going to die, and it's not like the conventional Grail War. Ultimately, 7 people might die, sort of thing. It's a situation where you are actively participating in the ongoing murder of more than 100 people.
Yeah, even if you want to treat the Mooncell as a self-contained universe and say, okay, I care about the stuff in this little sub-universe they got going on the moon, it doesn't work because there's no way for anything to continue in there. Because the protagonist at the end of normal Extra, at least I don't know about CCC, and for what I read, nobody really does. Because
CCC is like a time bubble.
Yeah,
like, it blibs out of the side of Extra and then rejoins it before the end of Extra.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, Hakuno's going to touch the little barrier thing and go poof. If there is no weight for your personal character you're controlling and everybody that you interact with, you all are going to go poof. And nothing you do is going to matter, except somebody might find the other you who is that you were based on in the game. And that's not the character you've been with. That's something that's been stuck in a freezer. Like, we don't care about the popsicle. We care about the character that we've actually probably been playing as we're following through this adventure, or going through slowly in the wiki as we read a terribly abridged version. So it just doesn't matter anything that happens inside this Mooncell. You can't treat it as its own self-contained universe, and you can't treat it as impactful on the real world. Because
as far as Fate Extra went, the mood of Fate Extra feels a lot like, basically after that point near the end of Persona 3, where it gets proclaimed that Nyx is coming down and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. Like the sort of the pall that hangs over everything in the game from that point onwards. There's like basically no brightness left in the world, and everything's visibly the same, but everything is terrible. That's the mood of Extra in general terms.
Yeah.
Is that, I'm going to die tomorrow, is pretty much the mood all the time.
Yeah.
Because your character is not Shiro Emiya. He is not optimistic. He does not think that he can fight his way through. He considers himself to be very fortunate if he's lucky to survive another day. Like, that's the mood of the whole game. So it's a very dour game. There's a lot of weight to it. That doesn't exist in Last Encore. Like, it's totally fails to communicate anything like that.
Yeah, and without context for these characters and emotional investment in them, they're just faces I think I saw on a wiki at one point. This is not a good entry point to the Extraverse at all. It's really bad.
It tells you a little bit more about the absurd wackiness of the deep lore of the Fate universe than it does about what the Extraverse is like. Like the target was that the story did not require previous knowledge of the Extra plot line in order to enjoy it, and that's actually true to a certain extent. The problem is that if you don't have that, you don't need the facts in order to understand the story. You do need to have the mood. You do need to know what it's like, as opposed to knowing the facts of what happened. So yeah, it's not really. It's really poor communication, generally speaking. There's not really anything that can be done to save it, like as a project. the story's just too out there, and the setting doesn't really properly accommodate what it's trying to do. And I don't think that there's a way that you could redo it that would make it better.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that the game or the anime the characters are flat as a board. Especially male Hakuno, dead-faced dude. It's like, I don't care about you. You literally have no personality, and what you do develop as a personality is the most generic action boy traits of all time.
Well, like, I think that he knows that, and you know, Shinbo, being the sort of guy that he is as director, probably thinks that oh well, this is just a weird and interesting take on how to do a character. No, it's not. It's actually just a bad one. So I don't think that he realizes that, because he's always looking to do sort of weird avant-garde stuff with characterization. So yeah, I think that this is one of those situations where you've got a guy who's doing an auteur thing, and that's just not compatible with normal people.
Yeah, and I don't know who was in charge of the animation. The choreography director for the fight scenes was really good at storyboarding whatever he put up. Some of the fights have a really good choreography with them, but
it just don't really translate that well.
But the animation doesn't work with it at all. Whoever was in charge of animating it and doing the camera work is not doing their job very good. It's just you see model smudging all over the place, and to a point where it's noticeable while watching it at full speed. This isn't freeze frame Goku hand looks silly, or Vegeta has an extra left hand stuff.
Yeah, it's very strange, and I've heard lots of people comment on it, but it's almost at the point where I feel like it's almost like they were using some experimental, unfamiliar technology to do the animation, and it just doesn't work very well, or they don't know how to use it. Because it's not like it doesn't seem like mistakes to me. It seems like a technological limitation of some kind.
I'm not sure.
The way everything blurs and pixelates all the time, like maybe it'll get scrubbed up on the Blu-ray release or something, but the way it is now, it looks like they just didn't know how to use their software.
On top of that, aside from the 7th tier, the little tower they're climbing, everywhere else has this really wonky lighting filter all over the screen. Like, it just makes everything look like it's got extra bloom around the edges, especially the main screen itself. It's not something you start to notice until about 3 episodes in, but once they get to the forest, it
Believe
is
me,
in your face
if you watch it on a VR headset, like I did, it does not take you that long to notice it.
Yeah, but it gets especially bad in the forest area onwards. Like,
yeah. You mean the Madoka zone?
Yeah, like the Madoka zone. It at least fits. I can understand why you would use that filter.
Yeah, it go though, because it's the Madoka zone. In the Madoka zone, it goes from evident to blinding.
I honestly don't remember. I do not care about this little ghost girl at all.
She's like the number one reason why the story doesn't actually make sense without the game, because you go through a lot trying to work out who she is and what her story is and what's going on. Like, Nursery Rhyme's story does not exist outside of Fate Extra, the original game. Like, there's no way to get into that. Like, she doesn't even make sense in FGO unless you know who she is from Extra. It's heavily implied that the one you summon in FGO is the one from Extra.
Yeah, she's operating as my caster right now. I just got her to 80. But yeah, it was. I can't recommend this to anybody, even Fate fans.
Well, I don't think that you will not watch it if you're a Fate fan, though. So that's sort of a moot point.
It's the same case where Fate is your baby, SMT is my baby. And I will eventually watch the Persona 5 anime, even though there's absolutely no reason for me to. Just because it's SMT stuff. But
I think the Persona 5 anime is better than Last Encore.
Yeah, it probably is.
But that's not hard.
Yeah. But yeah. Unless you're somebody that's going to watch it already just because it's Fate stuff, don't waste your time with it.
I think ultimately, like, the story is just too weird. It's not very Fate in a lot of ways. Like it's too like they spend all of their time doing introspection. It's like when you animate Unlimited Blade Works, you spend most of your time on making everything look super cool, right? You don't actually spend most of your time finding a way to translate the sort of internal monologue of Shiro Emiya into visuals. Because like, anybody who's read Fate Stay Night knows that the bulk of the runtime is internal monologues from Shiro.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's just it. None of that is in the anime, and the anime is better for it because nobody cares what Shiro thinks about people who die when they are killed.
Yeah, Ufotable did something real smart where they used Rin as a proxy to voice his thoughts for him a lot of the time, especially right after the first near the part where Gil fights Zerker.
I think that they're lucky in that sense because Rin is just significantly cleverer than Shiro is. So it makes sense for her to know what Shiro is thinking before he says it because Shiro is an open book on everything except his retardation, and so it makes sense for Rin to just be able to see through him. But
no, Shiro, that's stupid. Shut up.
The dude is a literal machine outside of Heaven's Feel. He's going to do. It's pretty clear what he thinks, and Natsu does spend a lot of time repeating his head thoughts a lot. But yeah,
that's the part of like basically Last Encore is the part of Fate Extra that nobody remembers because it wasn't about the detective work that you do to work out who the enemy is and what they're going to do, because in a lot of senses it's along with Fate Zero, Fate Extra is the only coherently executed Grail War because you actually have a process whereby you go through an investigation to try and determine, who is the enemy servant, what is their noble phantasm, what do we need to do to get around the fact that we're humongously outmatched again. That's your process storyline wise. Instead of animating that sort of content, Last Encore animates all of the stuff about Hakuno angsting about whether he's a real person or not, why doesn't he have any memories, that sort of thing. Nobody cares. We want to see cool things. And I think that Type Moon know that because there's a good reason that they're choosing Camelot to animate in the movie, and that's because Camelot has a lot of explosions. That's basically it. Camelot has a lot of explosions. Stuff blows up. Stuff happens. Pyramids fall from the sky, which appears to be an everyday occurrence in the FGO verse.
Oh, it is when Ozymandias is around.
Ozzy and Cleo and their flying pyramid of doom.
But so I'm really, really super looking forward to that movie actually, because there's just so much like pyrotechnic stuff happens, like enormous like magic laser cannons and giant magic energy walls and things. It's basically sci-fi powered by magic. It's awesome.
I have heard mention of something about some kind of catapult that is not visualized in the story. So
it's not really a catapult.
Don't spoil the actual events of the story for me. I know the characters that are there, but I want to keep the events to myself.
That catapult is from one of the slapstick sections of the story.
Yeah, it didn't. And I've seen interpretations of this catapult in one that were just all side by side by accident while I was trying to look for stuff, and every single interpretation was radically different on how the heck this catapult works.
But you don't see it on screen. It's sort of like described in the vaguest of terms. But let's just say that it's the sort of thing that Wile E. Coyote would think was a great idea.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So it'll be fun. I think they're picking just from the character lists and the servants that I know are in each chapter. They're picking two of the better ones to animate. Anybody can also get through Murica. If you get one decent 4-star, you can grab a good support and drag a good waiver with you.
It does need to be a decent one, though. If you've got Stheno as your only 4-star, it's not going to work.
You can get somebody. As long as you got somebody that can help the support.
Although I think if you had Sino and Uriali, you could probably get through based on charm locking, maybe.
Mabes, I don't know. So yeah. I have not done much in FGO. I burned one apple on the golems today. That was my limit. I got a few octuplet crystals. I managed to ascend John and get a pocket of like 6 more waiting around. So they weren't a priority for him at the moment, though they will be at the next roadblock. And mostly, like everybody else, I'm just waiting for Friday to sit there and kill demons all day.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I guess when you need hearts, you don't have much of a choice. I'm avoiding the hunting quests because, honestly, they just don't look very interesting and they look like kind of a lot of work. And I've got a humongous number of free quests to clean up still. Like, I have only cleared up to Okeanos.
Oh,
Everything
wow.
else is all just quartz waiting for me to harvest.
I'm halfway through Murica. That's how far I got in my Cleo binge.
Yeah, I left all that stuff by the wayside. But I'm nearly finished Camelot story, so that'll open up that to clear as well. Yeah, it's going to be a long road.
Tell you what, though, nobody talks about Cleo. She's the AoE Buster Assassin. Everybody keeps saying they always wish they had. That is not Jack and is not Old Man of the Mountain. So nobody talks about her. But I am really, really glad I got all that quartz and pulled her. She has earned her spot on the team and earned the grails I stuck in her.
Well, anybody who looks at the stats will say that she's the second best assassin in the game. It's as simple as that. Like, people who have actually investigated the matter know how powerful she is. I think that a lot of it is just that she's not a very popular character.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I'm talking specifically about people that just don't talk about her. And if people don't talk about something a lot, it's a lot harder to see it get lost in the blob of a class or one servant in that class, even if they are second best in the class. Like, you know, I just knew nothing about her. I was just like, oh, she has Danganronpa art. I'll get her.
She has
Sure.
a bad CG snake.
She has It's not a bad CG snake, to be fair. It's just a very conspicuously CG snake.
There's no questions about the CG-ness of the snake.
No.
The snake is hilarious. I love the snake. But yeah, so she has been a very good investment. I'm glad I saved up EXP cards and got her to 90 right away and dumped a few grails in her. The grails were really burning a hole in my pocket, and I was wasting too much brain juice on trying to think of who would be optimal and who I really wanted to stick them on more. I'm like, I like Dupalupa. Cleo looks pretty good. She's been doing really well so far. If I stick a grail in her now, everybody's going to borrow her for myself. Do that. And that's how it started.
I have not grailed anybody. All of my grails are still rotting on my inventory. Like, it's just, I don't know who to grail at all.
I got 10,000 support points, or friend points yesterday from people borrowing her for just the hunting quest with the wyverns.
Wow.
And I got about 50k for Halloween in total, or maybe a bit more. So that was nice. But yeah, other than that, just been playing Idolus. And it's a rhythm game. I already told you how the mechanics work last week. It's fun. I did the multiplayer grind. I've been playing multiplayer matches nonstop to get two of the idols I wanted. So they have a really cool feature in Idolus where you go in and if you play multiplayer at all, you get multiplayer points as long as you can finish the song. And these multiplayer points can be used to buy previous event idols that are on a rotation as month by month for what ones are available. So, I'm like, oh man, a bunch of these would have been really nice. I go in multiplayer and like, oh, they're all here, and everybody's like, oh yeah, it'll like play 40 songs and you'll be able to get one. Really? Okay. So I did that and ground through multiplayer for about 60 to 70 songs to grab Ranko and K8A.
Yeah, it really does kind of show just how stingy FGO is with their gacha.
Oh, I haven't even done the single player grind, and I have another 3 10 pulls ret to go for the next either banner I want or when Sinfest comes back up and I get a 6% SSR drop rate.
Good grief, that's even more generous than I thought.
Yeah, like this game showers you in the equivalent of quarters.
Yeah.
Well, but possibly because it's even more waifu-centric than FGO is. So
Oh yeah, it's an idol.
there might be a
Of course it is.
riot. There might be a riot if they didn't let people get their waifu.
Yeah, people do
Like a
not
legit
have,
riot in the streets.
people do not have a gameplay incentive in idols to go get more idols. Yeah, having a healer of a certain color would be nice, or having a special type of healer, a certain type of stat boost, or the ability to save yourself from one bad combo if an ability happens to be a one bad note in a combo. But it's not that big a deal. It's a rhythm game. You click the circles. How you play is never going to change. You
Nah,
play every song by just playing the beat map for it.
but my wife.
So if you were a perfect player, it wouldn't matter who any of your characters were, basically.
Well, you would want the score boosting ones, and you just fill your team with those if you're really, really trying to min max. But yeah, and they have
If you wanted to get one of those rewards for being in the top X players.
Yeah, like you would need a princess, which is a color specific for every type that gives 50% to all their stats if your unit is made up of only idols of that particular color of the 3 colors. And you would need a tricolor princess, and you would need a score up and a whole bunch of other weird stuff that increases score and combo multiplier bonuses. You need one of each type because buff types don't stack. So 2 characters with score up, although their skills will proc more frequently and they may not sync up with each other. If they do sync up, only the higher one remains active. So the bigger score boost will be the one that contributes to upping your score.
Right.
Stuff like that. 2 healers, you don't get double healing. You just have 2 potential characters to activate it of the 5 you bring into every song.
Okay.
So there is no gameplay incentive for waifus. It's just, I think this character looks cute and I want that card. And I want to see that dress in the game instead of whatever I have now. So it's fun. It's a much more relaxed game.
But sometimes you have the tree girl.
Yeah, sometimes you get multiplayer and somebody picks the character dressed in a full body tree costume with the solar system around it. That glows in the dark.
Why is that a thing?
Even Vol picked her as worst girl in his sort of the entire list.
Good grief.
Everybody that's done that list has put her as worst girl so far. But yeah, I got in a multiplayer match where the dude playing her had her off color, so he broke our color bonus for that song. He had her in the wrong slot to stick her in the center, and the song had an incredibly deep voice, and she is a little girl in a giant tree costume. And the voice did not match the model at all, and it was a song that focused on the center unit a lot. So the whole time the song's going, I got this really deep voiced little girl in a tree costume dancing around the screen.
That sounds hilarious for anything else.
This guy was clearly trolling on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't go off color unless you want to annoy people with that tree.
Yeah, but little tiny person with a silly costume with a deep voice is always hilarious.
Yeah. But yeah, multiplayer just grabs 5 people and sticks you each in a slot, and you pre-select what characters will fit that slot.
Oh.
So what he did was he set this tree girl for his center slot in literally every single unit he has because it was off color. She's like an orange unit, and it was a blue song. And you're supposed to use blue units and blue song for color up. So it did not work. So yeah, it was definitely intentional.
Yeah, just to mess with people by the sound of it.
Yeah. It was memorable though. Something to stick out from the multiplayer point grind. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got for a week's stuff. It's been a whole lot of work and occasionally pulling up the iPad to play through some mobile games. I haven't had time to sit down and really do any. Haven't had time to read anything. Haven't had time to play any games. No real media to talk about.
Yeah, it's been a pretty crap week all around, let's face it.
Yep, I'm already stretching as it is.
Yep.
So we should probably move on to the GNUs.
We should talk about some GNUs. Boy. We've got the ongoing dumpster fire of Diablo Immortal.
I'm astonished that they're still in denial about that. Like, it really seems like they don't think that there's anything wrong. And there's been a big debacle over leaks and not leaks and rumors and not rumors about, oh, well, there's really Diablo 4. No, there isn't. Yes, there is. They were going to show it. No, there isn't. No, they weren't going. Like,
I think
the cynical technique traditionally used in this scenario is the verdict comes down that you have screwed the pooch, really, and we need to try and salvage the situation. So what you do is that you use one of your journalism industry patsies, like Kotaku, and you deliberately leak to him the trailer, and you then get the trailer out in the wild without you announcing it, so that you can deny anything you need to deny because it's quote unquote a leak, and you basically are tacitly confirming the existence of the game everybody actually wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the usual approach. In this case, they've just clammed up.
Yeah,
and they're basically falling back on the, we said you shouldn't really expect very much from this BlizzCon. Why didn't you listen? Why didn't you believe us? We told you not to expect anything great because it was going to be a while before we heard anything about it. Like, no, that's not going to wash. You tried to sell to a crowd composed entirely of Blizzard fans a game that was not aimed at them.
Mm-hmm.
Hats off to those two dudes in the back of that crowd. They're just going, boo, over their noise suppression, loud enough so the people online can hear it.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I don't grasp. Like, they really don't seem to comprehend that the hardcore Diablo market and the mobile market, while they have probably got some overlap, they are also probably not the same market.
Yeah.
Like, there's no two ways about it. You are doing something idiotic. There's no market research has been done here, and that they have not reacted. That they're just sort of resting on their laurels just seems incredibly bizarre to me.
Yeah. If they wanted to get the profits from this thing and keep their good PR, what they should have done, what makes the most sense, is actually announce Diablo 4, and then wait until the next year while Diablo 4 is still in development, and say, oh, we got this other studio working on a Diablo mobile game while we make Diablo 4.
Well,
and then you can release it and make all the money you want from it without losing face with the Diablo fans.
Well, that's what both Bethesda and the Gears of War guys did. They threw out, here's a mobile game, and now look, a shiny trailer.
Yeah, you cannot just do mobile game by itself.
Yeah.
Especially if people are waiting on the next installment of a franchise.
Yeah. Like, think back to E3, that Gears of War pop thing should have been incredibly insulting to any Gears of War.
But they followed it immediately up with a real Gears of War.
Yeah.
Everybody forgot about it.
Immediately. So, and, okay, Elder Scrolls Blade isn't nearly as much of a kick in the face, but nobody remembers that's coming up either.
It still is a kick in the face. Like, if that had been the only thing that they'd announced, that would have been a kick in the face.
Yeah,
but instead, they decided to hype up everybody for the next Elder Scrolls game proper, even though it doesn't actually exist. But they brought two new projects to the table that basically don't exist yet, and said that, well, they're on the back burner. They're working in the background. The new Elder Scrolls game and their new IP. So that gave people something to latch onto.
Yeah.
And Fallout Shelter was the same way.
Yeah. Fallout Shelter was exactly the same.
Nobody cares about Fallout Shelter.
No.
But they followed it up with Fallout 4. So who cares?
Yeah, it more became, here's this thing for you to get a little bit of a Fallout kick in the meantime while you wait. Also, we're going to bend you over backwards with microtransactions. Enjoy!
Yeah, it's like so a lot of people have tried to make a big deal out of the drop in stock prices.
It's temporary.
It is temporary, and it's also like it was always going to be temporary. Like the drop in stock prices was basically a reflection of disgust in that part of the market that actually cares about the company.
Yeah.
The part of the shareholders that actually care about the company, which, given the fact that it was only 7% of them, tells you where the interests actually lie with the money people.
It's a reactionary. It's a reactionary drop at that. Even if Diablo Immortal comes out and is hot trash like we thought it was, it's not gonna matter. This dip will still spike back up.
Well, the thing is that it doesn't matter. Like, it's not going to make a difference. Because they always make $1 billion. Like, this game is going to be bonkers profitable, even though it's just a reskin of another game.
Yeah.
That already exists.
Even if it's a flop in the West, it's still going to be a massive hit in China.
Yeah, and that was another thing that disgusted me about their handling of this, is that douche who was in charge of presenting it at BlizzCon. Like, he went on the record saying that, oh no, we've been working with what is it, GameEase or whatever their name is. I mean, no, NetEase. That we've been working with NetEase to construct this game for years and so on. Like, we've had work done over our side and work done on their side. We've got supplied our artists and writers and our skill designs and whatnot. Like, the part that he doesn't bother to say is that all of the things that he has said that Blizzard is supplying are things that constitute the skin of a game.
Mm-hmm.
They're not things that constitute an actual game.
NetEase has already made this game twice. So, take from that what you will.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the whole thing's been a bit of a disaster. Like, there's been leaks saying they were supposed to announce Diablo 4 at BlizzCon, but yeah,
the story has changed at least 3 times this week in the mess
on a daily basis.
It's because none of them are true, right? Like, that's the thing. If the games industry's journalists had any interest in reality, they could just say, "Well, we don't actually know," but they don't want to do that because, number one, that doesn't get clicks, and number two, they have utter contempt for gamers. Yeah. That's the thing that muddles the whole equation. It makes things very hard to interpret. It's the same as trying to get any kind of truth on politics from television. You can't do it because everybody's got an agenda. Everybody. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that in video games, that agenda has hit this bizarre apotheosis of the games journalism actually has a vested interest in misleading gamers because they aren't interested in presenting the news. They're interested in shaping thought and shaping taste. They don't care about silly things like, reality. So if they feel it suits their purposes to defend a patently awful game, they will do it. It is not because they know anything about the game or care anything about the game, but because they're disgusted by the people who don't like it. Mm-hmm. The whole thing is just a personal attack, basically. That's the depth to which this industry has fallen. So, yeah, it's impossible to discern fact from fiction as far as these rumors go, because the people reporting them don't actually care if it's true or not. Nope. They don't care. They will get their clicks, and they have no respect for the people they're reporting to. So why would they bother to report well? It's the whole thing is just disgusting in every imaginable way. Like, there is no venue from which you can get information other than Blizzard, and we already know that Blizzard lies as easily as anything else. Like, they will reimagine the way in which it is not actually a lie somehow after the fact, but the practical reality is that they can't help but spin falsehoods.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's that whole ongoing nonsense.
That's probably going to go on for a while, and at this stage, I think that their approach is going to be wait until things cool down.
Yeah.
Like, they're just going to sit on it and pretend like, oh, we did everything we were supposed to. All of the outrage is just something our stupid fans are doing.
That's a good way to get rid of your fans.
Well, they won't say it like that, but they will say, oh, we're really glad to see the amount of passion the fan base has, but screw all y'all.
Yeah. Yeah, we're right, you're wrong.
Yeah, you think you do, but you don't.
Yeah.
You actually all want Diablo Immortal. You just don't know it yet.
Ugh. Yeah, that's kind of been Blizzard's attitude for the last few years, and it's still sickening. Do you really want to talk about WoW lore and how silly that's gotten?
I don't really want to talk about it more than to note that they don't know anything about it.
They're contradicting their own lore now.
Alex Afrasiabi, or whatever his name is, who is one of the lore mavens now that Metzen is not around to do the whole job for everybody, basically in the interview referred to the Wrathgate as being one of Sylvanas' plans. It was, in fact, an important plot point to Wrath of the Lich King that it was not Sylvanas' plan. It was a planned coup by Varimathras and Putris.
Yes.
who don't like the fact that Sylvanas wasn't in Wrath of the Lich King, the cartoon character villain that they have made her now in Battle for Azeroth. Like, if Sylvanas was then what Sylvanas is now, they would have been happy as clap.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, that was not the case back then, because Sylvanas still had, a character goal. Like, they were still trying to write a particular character. So them getting this wrong shows that there is no reason to believe that the bad writing for Sylvanas is anything other than garden variety terrible writing, because they don't actually realise that Sylvanas didn't used to be the cartoon character villain. They think Sylvanas is the one who gassed everybody at the Wrathgate.
Just why?
So the reason the writing is so bad is because they don't care about their lore. They don't know anything about their lore. They have no interest in their lore, and they have particular contempt for anybody who does. So yeah, that's where we're headed now. There are various theories and speculations of going on around the place about what Sylvanas could really be up to. Before the show, I actually devised off the cuff a story that would make it make sense and was better writing than anything Blizzard had come up with so far. It was, a total ass pull.
Yep.
But it would have saved things.
It would have saved things, and honestly, it sounds better than anything Blizzard's written for this so far.
Yeah, which isn't hard. But yeah, the reality is that they don't have a clue what they're doing, and that's becoming more and more clear with each passing day. It's abundantly obvious now that the big problem with their writing is that Blizzard is writing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that interview regarding Sylvanas is pretty much like the only useful thing that we got out of it is the fact that they said that they didn't want to make her a raid boss. The worst part about that was that their reasoning for not wanting to make Sylvanas a raid boss was that it would make people mad. In other words, it's not that they've got any philosophical objection to completely trashing a character in order to kill them off just because. It's that, well, they are afraid that they'll lose fans if they do. So
yeah.
That's the world we're operating at this point. It's not a very good one.
No.
But,
all right. Some happier news then, shall we? Move away from Blizzard being Blizzardy.
We have happy news? What does that look like?
Do we?
Well, I could laugh at Polygon, but that's just like laughing at something stupid.
But laughing at Polygon is what we live for.
We're starting to get reports and first impressions out of WoW Classic, and from all reports, from my perspective anyway, it's sounding pretty positive. Yeah.
Now, we did mention about sharding on the previous show. Blizzard came out and made a statement on that because everybody else was just as outraged as we were. It turned out that they are planning on basically using this as a test bed for sharding, like super sharding at launch, and then removing the sharding once things stabilize.
Okay.
So that basically you can move at more than 3 frames per second at launch.
All right.
And not cause everything to fall apart. It's basically so that you can have more than, the standard zone's capacity log on at the same time, basically. It's to try and help congestion, and they're planning on removing it after that because it turns out, that they have twigged that it would cause severe, irreparable damage to the whole experience if it got left in. But they want people to actually be able to play on launch day and not have to face the nostalgia of not being able to log on to WoW Classic. So
I remember the opening of Encourage. The server caught fire. Almost
every single server in AQ40's opening caught fire.
Yeah, they were not prepared to have the entire population of a server crammed into one small area.
Every person that was at max level was there, even people that weren't.
A lot of people who weren't because they had a Warlock friend. I remember because I was there playing transportation duty.
I remember a random Anubis ass on the way down there.
Also, yes, because people would kite them from all over the place.
I don't know if they spawned somewhere or if people kited them, but there were just random Anubis ass all over the place.
Oh, they spawned. They spawned around various places of Silithus, and they were part of the event. You could kill them to get keys or something. But yeah, people would kite them into the crowd, especially when there were a bunch of lobies around.
Yeah.
So, good times. So, WoW Classic, aside from a few quality of life improvements, is pretty much what you'd expect. It's WoW circa 2007.
2004, bro. Like, well, they're doing it. What patch?
End of vanilla. The Sandlore
Okay,
patch.
so-
No, I don't know if that's true.
That's
I think that they said that. No, they listed 3 specific raids that were going to be out at launch.
Okay.
I think they said that there were going to be 2 world bosses. No, there were 3 things. Onyxia, 2 world bosses. I think it was Azuragos and Kazakh, and Molten Core, and that was all that was going to launch with.
Okay,
Because they're going to roll them out step by step.
right. That
So-
sort of contradicts what they've said in the past. So okay.
2004.
Well, this is something they said the other day.
Yeah.
Like I read this the other day because they gave a launch roadmap for how they were planning to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so 2004, 2005.
Era. Yeah. So
They can't launch it all at once because people would just skip all the earlier content and then
Well,
they'll complain
they
that they
possibly
skipped all the
will.
earlier content.
They
Yeah,
will.
no, they definitely will. If you got a group,
There's no
that
question
already-
about it.
Yeah. As much
you
as you
can-
possibly
Like,
can.
Everything about the way top end players play, the people who are clearers, everything about the way they play is focused on getting the best gear available to tackle the latest content. If you make the best gear and the latest content available immediately, what do you think they're going to do?
Like,
Mhm.
if you
You
got a
have
group,
to release it by degrees, and every other MMO that does a classic server does it like that as well.
if you got a group that can carry you through BWL, are you really going to sit through Molten Core Slog?
Only as much as you absolutely have to.
Wrangling 40 people is hard enough.
Yeah.
The only things that will happen will be attunements. I don't think people will even do that. With the skills people have, people will be farming everything that they'll be farming trash drops from Nax first. That's what they'll be doing. Because the only thing you need to get into Nax is like a mountain of gold,
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
which is farmable.
Yeah.
So you would be wasting your time, completely wasting your time, if you released a WoW Classic server which had Nax open.
Right. Anywho.
Yeah,
And that would apply to any of the high level instances. Even if it was just BWL, everybody would skip straight to BWL.
That's because Molten Core is pretty much hot garbage.
No, it's not. It's because
No.
the gear in BWL is better.
it's because the gear in Molten Core is garbage, barring like 3
It
drops
is.
of note.
You need
They're like-
shadow resist and fire resist, and you'll like it.
Yeah,
Vanilla
I got my-
itemization.
I think my original warrior still has the full Dark Iron set in her bank somewhere.
Good grief. So yeah.
That was a pain in the butt for like a month to farm up all the ore necessary for it. And every tank had to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every single one of us.
So there's been we got the feedback back from the first players, and by and large it's been very positive. People are reliving their happy memories, except for, of course, the games journalists who
Yeah,
are
the games
crying.
journalists hate it. Like,
Ah,
it's like you owe them money or something. My goodness.
yeah.
Yeah, they're.
Like,
What is this? I have to actually prepare before I leave?
you actually have to
This is-
read your quest text to find out where you've got to go.
God forbid.
It's kind of
So I got
hilarious.
killed by a Defiance pillager. It's not fair.
I'm low level and I actually got killed. I actually had to encounter a challenge. Oh noes.
They've been one-shotting everything for goodness knows how long now. They can't handle it.
What's this? I have to crowd control this thing and use efficient use of disruption and stuns on the other Defiance Pillager right next to the one I just CC'd? Because
You
these
said
things
that,
have my
but they don't know any of those words, dude.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but it's what they would have to do if there were 2 Defiance Pillagers next to each other and they were around level 17.
Yaha.
Otherwise, they're going to blow you up. That's what they do.
You will die
That's
in
their
fire.
job. A big fireball.
So yeah, it's heartening to see that people are enjoying it, except for the games journalists. But that's always heartening to see that they're not enjoying something, because usually it means it's good.
I mean, a lot of the people who are covering it are also, that class of YouTuber who basically depends on Blizzard for a pay packet.
You know, the ones that weren't even born at the time of WoW's launch.
No, a lot of them are older folks
Oh,
when it comes
good.
to covering WoW.
Yeah.
A lot of them are older folks, but the fact is that they are still Blizzard shills because they're on their payroll, either directly or indirectly, because they don't have a career without Blizzard's WoW games.
Yeah.
So a lot of them are still like they're being very coy about their fondness for it. Because I mean, the reality is that the WoW Classic mechanically was awful. Like in terms of the bit that you do, in terms not in concept but in practice, is not particularly enriching to anybody's game experience. The reality is that what WoW Classic really provides a strong opportunity for is to give proof to Blizzard regarding the things that are actually important to making a good MMO, because WoW Classic had them and current WoW doesn't. I had a lengthy chat to Ari about this yesterday, I think it was, and the difference in direction and self-direction in what we have now and what we had in Classic, and how far apart those two are in practice as far as the things that you need to do, because everything in World of Warcraft Classic was structured in the sense of, well, we're going off to have an adventure now. What are the things I need to take with me for an adventure? Because I can't just jump straight back to the Flight Master every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared for contingencies. You do not ever prepare for contingencies in Modern WoW, because you get a quest, you go, you kill the 5 things you need, and you go back to the quest giver, and there's not actually anything that happens in between those two places.
Nope.
There's nothing incidental ever happens, ever, of any kind. Yeah. Nothing is incidental. It's all scripted.
In Vanilla WoW, any quest can turn into a great endeavor if the Zephyrs don't want to drop their hooves, or the Boars don't want to drop their livers. You're going to be out there for a while, and you need to have the supplies on you and the awareness of mind to keep your surroundings in check while you're doing it, because it can take plural number of hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so the value of taking plural number of hours to do these things is an open question, obviously, but the reality is that the fact of it adds an aspect of adventure that you just don't have otherwise. Like, the reality is that it's, in a sense, it's the things that you don't like that make the things that you do like worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's a way of giving an excuse for grinding. I know that, but the grind as a concept exists in order to give value to what you get at the end. And the grind was merely, this was the great genius of World of Warcraft, right? Was that the grind was just a framing device for other things.
Yep.
The grind was the meat and potatoes part of the experience, and you had the quests and the story and the random encounters that you ran across were all the cool things that you found around it. That was the operation of this beast, and that what you have now is a single player. There is no difference between World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth and a bad single player game.
And more so than that, like the biggest standout thing between WoW Vanilla and Modern WoW is, in one game, your eyes are focused on the world and the game, what's around you, and what you're doing. In Modern WoW, you're focused on the interface, the submenus, and the numbers, and how much stuff you still have to do.
Yeah. Because everything is about checking off the boxes and making the numbers go up now. There's nothing strays outside those boundaries anymore. There's no need for it. That everything has been boiled down to its most meager parts. And one of the things I'm interested in seeing is the extent to which that will become true in WoW Classic, because it is a matter of habit now for most high-end WoW players in WoW as it exists currently. Like, how exactly will the boiling down process go? Are people so habituated to behaving in the most efficient way possible that nobody will even notice when they do encounter other people in the world? Is that what's going to happen?
Yeah, I think.
Like, will people behave like robots because they've been trained to?
It's going to be interesting.
So there's a lot of interesting questions to be answered, and that's the point, really.
If
you think you do what you do, but you don't, is insulting. There's no question about that. But to find out the extent to which it is true will be the interesting thing here.
it doesn't take many to break from that mindset, and that if enough people have the ability to fall back in the vanilla WoW mindset, it doesn't take very many to completely disrupt an area and shake up the go to next quest thing.
Yeah, like one ganker in Stranglethorn of sufficient skill was enough to start a war.
Yeah, like one Crossroads raid and the entire upper half of the Barrens is unusable for the rest of the day. Like this is how things work, and it doesn't take very much, or at least in raw numbers of people, to get people shooken up from that usual mindset. Like, people are gonna be doing stuff, and they're gonna be acting like people, which is usually being douche waffles. But it's gonna make your experience interesting and memorable.
And there's something subtly different about the process of, attempting to adventure in Terran Mill or not. Like, do I join the fight, or do I try and find somewhere else to go? Like, because now there's no somewhere else to go.
No.
Yeah.
Like, because nobody gathers in any area.
Nope.
You go to your place, you do your quest. Everybody else is doing the same thing. If you don't like who's currently in that area, you use some mod to skip to another shard, or to another server, or whatever. Like, you don't have to deal with the situation as it stands. You just reset the world until you get a situation you like.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting to watch. I will probably actually fire it up and have a play around with it at some point.
There's a good chance that I will.
Yeah.
If I can find a way not to give Blizzard money, I will.
You're going to have to give them money. At least a sub.
Yeah, it's a subscription service. I don't know what you're planning on.
I mean, if I can find a way to dig up a gift card or something so that it's not out of my paycheck, that'd be a line I could be okay. But I'm not putting money from my wallet towards Blizzard.
Oh, boy.
If you don't give them money when they do things right, they'll never do anything.
Yeah, you've got to give them money when they actually do something you agree with.
I don't know. They gotta. It's a weird spot.
Nah. All right. Next up, we have the November releases for PlayStation Plus, which are late being announced because they were leaked early, but they're also up now. So go get.
Did you link this?
I did not, but I've got them right here. So the first.
You should post a link so we can follow along in the show host thread.
I'm not actually sure.
I already went and downloaded them, so...
Yeah, I kind of did the same as well. I just went straight to the PlayStation Store. So, the first big name title is Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition. Now, it's a first-person shooter, which I found very hard to play the first time round.
I haven't heard bad things about it.
Gameplay-wise, mechanically, it was very, very fun. This is the original, not the full clipper version. What I found bad was the writing.
It's a dude bro shooter, dude.
It's about as dude bro as you can possibly get, and they have absolutely no qualms about swearing. A lot.
Yeah, that was a meme when it came out, remember?
Because swearing is cool. Didn't you know?
The fact that they start making up swears just to swear some more towards the later parts of the game gets a bit silly.
Hey, that was a great Oxhorn cartoon, thank you very much.
Made up swear words, best thing going. Good times, good times. I'll probably actually give Bulletstorm another go, because it was fun. But just the swearing, it was a bit much.
There was a meme video that got really popular. There was just a running tally of all the times people swear in that game.
Yeah, that would have been a very big number.
I don't remember how big it was, but it was a funny video. Yakuza, all Yakuza games are pretty okay. I don't know about any specific series, but
they're all kind of more or less the same.
From the random darts I've thrown to the dartboard whenever to decide which ones I do poke at, I've never finished one.
Yeah,
they've been all pretty good.
I've always kind of liked the Yakuza. They try to portray this whole serious thing where you've got everyone walking around with the big scowly faces and the gravelly voices and all that, but then they're doing something completely nonsensical at the same time.
They absolutely know that.
Yeah.
There's no question.
And
they
know
exactly what
embrace
they're
it.
doing. Like, it's like all comedy is based on the juxtaposition of two things that don't normally get just juxtaposed together.
Yep. In this case, serious faces and silliness.
Yeah.
Yeah. The games get very, very silly. So, yeah, that's another one I'll probably give a go, because I've always meant to try and properly play something in the Yakuza series. It's just never been had the time.
Yeah.
Next up, Jackbox Party Pack 2, which is always good for either making or losing friends. It's got the original Quiplash in it and Fibbage 2, which are the only games of real note. The others don't really count, so who cares? Those will get you a couple of rounds at a party or something like that.
You gotta have somebody who is the one-liner man and one guy who is the setup man.
Yeah.
To have the really good jokes come out, though, for most of these games.
Yep.
Abo is the best one-liner man for that job that I know. If you want to see that, it might still be on our Twitch. I don't know if we highlighted it or archived it or what.
No, Twitch tends to purge things on its own random, arbitrary whims.
Yeah.
Which is really kind of annoying. Next up, you get the Arcado series, which is a bunch of pixel arty arcade-typey games who nobody really cares.
I don't know, I've never heard of it.
That's because nobody cares. See?
Yeah, Burly Minute C, while an awesome title, is not a very good-looking indie game.
It's one of these game journalists' indie darlings.
Yeah.
So
it was on Time Magazine's top 10 games. That should tell you everything you need to know.
That says everything you need to know right there. As much as I am all for playing a game about guys with humongous, glorious beards, no.
Yeah, no. And then the last one is apparently a Crazy Taxi ripoff that is not very good.
I was thought it's...
They're stretching it.
Yeah.
Based on what I saw of the gameplay. Like, the only thing that you can use to compare it with Crazy Taxi is the fact that passengers are involved. There is no other commonality.
Yeah, so you're driving people around in a limousine which is constantly rotating.
I see. Oh, this is why you should watch the videos of stuff instead of just reading the text descriptions.
Yes, you should. So, yeah, you've got to...
This is an FMV game. This is the part that we need to communicate here.
Yeah, the acting is gloriously bad.
That would make me sick. I can't play that.
So, the game looks very, very strange. Incidentally, is it possible to actually have an FMV game with good acting?
It wouldn't really be an FMV game then, would it?
No, I don't think it would.
Like, half the fun is the fact that everybody involved is terrible at their job.
Yeah.
Like, if Red Alert 2 had FMVs that were actually good...
Oh, come on. Red Alert 3 was Tim Curry and George Takei trying to out-chew on scenery.
Yeah, like, would that series benefit from people actually being good at their job? No, no, not at all. It would be an active detriment if they were good at their job. The funny part of those games, and the reason they're so awesome, is how bad the FMV acting is.
I mean, come on. Tim Curry was practically foaming at the mouth at the end of those games.
Oh, the Red Alert series.
That was gloriously awful in terms of acting. And you should totally go and play those games. And
now his franchise is a mobile game.
See, I just said something positive about EA. Go and play one of their games. And then you reminded me why that was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Oh, EA, how the mighty have fallen into terribleness.
They haven't really fallen. They've been stuck at rock bottom for a while now. I think they won worst company again.
Oh yeah, they've been there for about 6 years.
Basically been the devil of the games industry for goodness only knows how long.
Yeah, I'm trying to think exactly when that really came about, but early 2000s?
Since people stopped, I don't know, a while.
Yeah.
It's like at least 5 to 10 years ago at minimum.
Oh no, it was definitely longer than that. Because Spore happened before that.
I don't know. It's too vague to define when the fall was near its end and when they actually crashed and how long they've been sitting at the bottom.
Yeah. So yeah, actually a pretty good pick for PS Plus this month.
Yeah. One Dude Bro game, one decent game, and Jackbox.
Yeah.
Only though, for those of you wondering, so you do need a PS3 to download it.
Yes, you do.
And the usual trash they throw in there to pad the list.
Yeah, there's always a bit of rubbish in there, but we can just safely skip over that.
As long as one of the games is good, it's good value. So
yeah. All right. We have Microsoft have been busy. They've bought up a companies that are probably going to become a whole lot worse all of a sudden. The first, actually, they've both got a very common theme. The first being In Exile, who are the guys who did, I believe, the Path of Exile series.
No, that ties in Numenera.
Yeah, the bad one of the three of those type of games I played a while ago.
Yeah. The other studio they bought is Obsidian. I like Obsidian.
Who make Bethesda games good.
Yes. They actually do surprisingly good work, but it always tends to either be very niche or just downright unpopular for some reason. At least until later.
Or, they're not given enough time to finish it. KOTOR 2.
KOTOR 2. But they did.
So they're capable of making good games, but people rarely ever let them.
Yeah. Like, they've cleaned up after Bethesda because they made Fallout New Vegas, which was excellent after the bugs were sorted out. They cleaned up after BioWare because they did Neverwinter Nights 2, which was excellent. Again, after the bugs were sorted out.
Alpha Protocol was pretty bad, but we'll let them slide on that one because the next game was Fallout New Vegas, which of the Fallouts is the best one, probably.
Yep.
Octale will kill you. Octale's absolutely convinced. I think it's Octale. Is absolutely convinced that Fallout 3 is better than New Vegas.
Yeah. No.
But he also thinks drunk driving is a good idea. So I mean,
yeah, don't do that, kids.
Yeah, don't do that.
No.
They also did Pillars of Eternity.
Console launch aside. Yeah.
Yeah.
They done the first Butthole game, the stick with the Butthole game.
Did they? Yes, they did.
Yeah, they did Stick of Truth. They did Pillars of Eternity, the good one of those three of that type of game we mentioned, old school isometric RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the best of them, not good in my book, but the best of the three that came out right next to each other.
Yeah.
They did Skyforge. That's that MMO that Vol was playing that I poked around at for a little bit, I think.
I liked that game.
I do like it.
I just don't have the time to play it.
Everything's so shiny.
Yeah, it's very shiny. It's got a nice aesthetic. It's got nice mechanics. It's grindy as heck. Nobody has the time for that.
Yep, and the sequel to Pillars of Eternity. So yeah, there's a common theme between these two companies.
They make games that need a mouse and keyboard.
Western RPGs.
Western RPGs that require mouse and keyboard. Both of them have at least part of their company dedicated to making isometric RPGs that require a mouse and keyboard, or have console releases that are very, very inferior.
Yeah, they're good at that. All right. I think we're getting close to the end.
Let's see. My stuff is all
We've got
pretty small.
The release date for Crackdown 3 being bumped forward for a change. It's
generally... Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be released on February 15th now.
That's my birthday.
Nice. But, oh boy, that game. I like the first Crackdown. The second Crackdown was pretty bad. But this one's got Terry Crews all over it, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, the first Crackdown came with the Halo 3 multiplayer beta in the Crackdown box.
Oh yeah, it did too.
So that's why it's sold.
That's why it became a franchise at all, was because the Halo 3 multiplayer beta was in the box of Crackdown. So you had to buy Crackdown to get it. So everybody calls Crackdown the game that came with the Halo 3 multiplayer beta.
Yeah, it was a stupid fun game all on its own. I mean, it's fighting crime with superpowers. What's not to love?
I don't know. It was the game that came with the Halo 3 multiplayer beta. I never really sat down and played through the whole thing, I don't think. I might have.
Let's see. We've got reviews coming back for The Quiet Man. Do not play The Quiet Man.
Yeah, seems like a dumpster fire.
Yeah. So we all I think we remember this one from E3. It was the one about the mute guy beating up thugs in an alley. In the Square Enix panel. Someone along the design team thought, "Hey, this character is deaf. Why don't we remove 90% of the sound from the game?"
That's an auto decision right there, if ever I heard one.
FNAF.
There was so much FNAF.
Are you sure the game journalists just couldn't get their combo high enough for the music to start?
Yeah.
That's possible.
So it's got all these really weird design decisions. Like the combat itself is kind of a bit janky. It's kind of from what I can tell, the Batman Arkham system, except, put together by people who have absolutely no idea what they're doing with it. But as you're fighting, you get this semi-transparent overlay of an FMV movie come over it for no apparent reason.
Why?
I don't know.
What do they claim it's supposed to accomplish?
I don't think they claim anything. So they've actually put out a patch for this game, and they've called it The Quiet Man Answers. And all that does is put 90% of the sound back in the game. So you can hear all the text and the talking, and realize that you were probably better off not hearing it in the first place. Because the writing is garbage. So yeah, that's that. I just had to chew on a really bad game. Who's got something else? Anything else?
Small things, but nothing really.
There's something about Destiny, wasn't there?
Oh, they're putting more microtransactions in the game. These are not as offensive as the current ones, to be fair, but you can purchase. Yeah, you can directly purchase some of the emotes now instead of having to roll the gacha for them.
Yeah. Incidentally, if you log into Battle.net, you can get the PC version of Destiny 2 for free for a little bit longer.
I'll be honest. When I hear that I can buy emotes, I'm not thinking, "Wow, what a deal!"
No.
Yeah, they want $5 for blue and purple emotes and $10 for any yellow emotes. So,
yay?
No, thank you.
Yeah, we could do without those, I think. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And you will eventually collect all the emotes if you just keep playing the game enough, so I don't really even know who this is aimed at. You get them from the loot boxes that you get when you level up. After at level cap, if you get more experience and you enough to hit another level, they throw a loot box at you.
Yeah, I think I got a couple of the emotes out of those.
Yeah, so I don't even know who this is for. And you can get the legendary emotes out of it because I've gotten some of them. I've gotten some of the yellow emotes from those boxes.
Are they any particularly elaborate emotes, or are they just something that they've just arbitrarily decided is going to be rare?
I mean, sometimes they have new models pop out, like the collect motes button makes you make little triangles appear between your hands and stuff.
Huh.
It's not nearly as interesting as even that sounds.
I'm going to be honest, I wasn't thrilled.
No.
No. So something that nobody will buy is basically what this is. Unless they're the hardest of hardcore that really just need to finish off their emote collection.
It really does seem like a weird decision. I didn't think people in Destiny 2 cared that much about emotes. It's not a chat simulator. It's not even an MMO. You can sort of see people, but it's not really... There's no benefit to interacting with them in a deliberate fashion.
Even in group content, you're just trying to get through the level as fast as you can or finish the dungeon as fast as you can to get to the boss or the bosses. So you're just trying to shoot all the dudes and you're busy looking down your sights. You don't have time to watch the dude next to you dance around with a funny hat.
Yeah. So just shoot the dudes.
I mean, we might just have a uniquely incorrect perspective, and in fact, that watching dudes dance around with funny hats is like half the game to some people. So,
the fact that people are making such a big deal out of the dances in Fortnite is disturbing, I have to admit, by the way. Have you actually seen how far that's been getting? Things like...
No.
sports ball over in America as someone makes a touchdown, and they do a dance that they just copied straight out of Fortnite. And by copied out of Fortnite, I mean they're just doing a dance. This seems to be the big thing now. Everything is Fortnite.
Yeah, touchdown dances are always simple, or they get called for over celebration and wasting time.
Showboating, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I wonder how it feels to be PUBG right now.
Yes.
All right, let's go out whacking on Blizzard one more time for being dumb.
Okay, go.
Because I can't let them have any bit of a positive go out, or we were optimistically thinking about going to WoW Classic. They made a pretty big spaghetti code mess up with Overwatch. The next patch is going to make you reinstall the entire game.
Oh dear. How big is the game at this point?
20 to 60 gigabytes?
There we go.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's closer to 60. So it's a big game. That's a big download.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of gigabytes to hold on a specific hard drive, especially if you're like, you know, the hardcore players that probably pick this as their one app they stick on their solid state.
Mm-hmm.
If they have to hold the current files while they re-download the new ones,
really have to
that hard drive ain't going to be able to hold it.
Why is this game so large? I mean, there's games out there with maybe 10 times the content.
Blizzard branding. It's got the Blizzard tag, cartoony aesthetic, really pretty videos that go with the game for trailers and crap. That's why. That's it.
But I'm not even going to try and figure that one out.
And Team Fortress-esque type gameplay, which has proven to be pretty popular. And people were looking for something other than Team Fortress forever.
Yeah, they are.
So it found a niche. It had a Blizzard brand, and it had an aesthetic people will just flock to.
That still doesn't justify taking up ridiculous amounts of hard drive space, though.
Oh, I thought you were asking about how people play this game.
No, play the game I can understand because it is fun in small doses. It's not the sort of thing I'll constantly pick.
Oh no! This is horrible optimization and compression. Like,
there you go.
Whoever wrote this thing is an idiot. The game ain't that pretty. The polygons aren't that many, unless this is some special technology I don't know about.
Yeah.
You can't tell me, like, unless they're using micro polygons on the characters to make them look that round and cartoony. Like, I don't know.
Maybe?
I don't know how you get that big. Like, the game's got some videos in it, and the polygon count of the characters doesn't look absurd unless, like I said, they're using micro polygons to make them so round and cartoony. The maps are not that big.
No, they're not.
There's a chunk of them. Like, this should be a 30 gig game at most.
Yes.
Somebody done messed up the compression. Not as bad as Capcom with Street Fighter 4 or Street Fighter 5, but this done messed it up pretty bad.
Oh well, good luck installing it all, guys. I'm not going to be one of them.
Yeah, I gave up on Overwatch a month after it came out.
Yeah.
Not for any particular reason, just got bored with it. But yeah, that was just haha funny. Blizzard, too bad at your job.
Such a bully, Ari.
I'm gonna keep beating on him. I'm not gonna stop because if I stop, I'll be tempted to play WoW for realsies again.
Also, you're basically doing this for yourself. You're trying to ensure that you maintain a good, healthy level of hatred.
Yes, and it must always be there. Otherwise, they're not gonna sell me back on WoW, but some of my friends might, and I can't let that happen.
There is a constant and present danger. Yes.
Yeah. So always remember, get your daily dose of haterade for WoW gulp down before you go to sleep every night. Otherwise, your friends might be able to talk you into it.
Oh boy.
That's your lesson that's your daily lesson for the day. I'm like 85% serious about that too. So yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah, there's some small stuff, but I don't really want to talk about the Indian hat on Game & Watch being removed.
Nah, I don't think anyone really cares, to be honest.
Why is that a thing?
I don't know.
The Indian feather on Game Watch is because his game was originally launched in the early 1980s.
Even then, kids in middle or elementary school still use the feather cap Indians with teepees and little brown brown skin clothes and moccasins as the stereotypical Native American in their elementary school plays for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So I've never ever, I don't know very many Indians to be fair, but I've never seen an Indian complain about it. Did I just say that on the show? Oh well, it's not really a slur anyway. You have to stretch it to even think it is.
No, you've got to call them Native Americans.
No. Every single one I know makes us say Indian on purpose because there are actual Indians in the groups they're a part of.
I see.
Indian is in from India.
Yes, as in from India. So the only Indians I know are also with Indians from India. So it gets confusing. So they've settled on just say Indian. It's easier.
So Columbus was right. He was just 300 years early.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, that was a haha funny from Nintendo being dumb. I don't want to really dive into it.
Yeah, it's not really one I was expecting to dive into because it's pretty much a non-event.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're done unless y'all see anything else on the list that y'all particularly want to talk about.
Nope. Let's get out of here.
All right. Email topic of the week is write me an email about anything. Oh, WoW Classic. There you go. You have that one. Closing comments go, I guess.
What is free time?
I have tomorrow off.
You jerk.
I don't. It's a Sunday, and I still got to go to work. Not for very long, thankfully, but I still have to go in on a Sunday.
Oh, great. Someone just let a tidal wave of animals into here. I should probably pack up then.
All right.
You know, for a moment I thought you were talking about a video game, and then I realized you live at your house.
Yeah, there's critters all over the place.
You and animals. All right, folks. I think we're done. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.